Okay, we seem to have people here.
Hello,
3 so
hello. How's
far.
it going, Doc?
Hey, Bry. Good to almost see you.
What's that?
I say good to almost see you. You're a black rectangle. But
I
that's
should at
cool.
least put an avatar up.
Yeah, that's all right. You know, all is cool. There's so much going on here. I had to leave a lunch upstairs at our house. We have guests over. One of them is Drummond Reed from
Oh,
many
cool.
things. Yeah, he's
What's he
here.
what's he working on what's he doing these
Oh,
days?
he's with on the he works for Gen, which is they have LifeLock and Norton and Avast and a bunch of stuff, but he's working it's on identity stuff. He's always been working on identity stuff. It's really good
Cool.
stuff. I think what they're trying to make is I called it the knitwear, they what Walt Whitman said. He spoke of a knit of identity, of many identities that we all have, and how we are known to each other. So that's what Drummond's working on. He ought to speak at this thing. Um, so I have to say
Yeah.
okay to this being just subscribed, and I'm supposedly leading this. I'm proxy for Riza today. So
Cool. Well,
yeah,
anyway, I can support.
yeah, you should yeah, take a look at what he's doing. He's are you ever going to come to IW? Have you been to IW yet?
Yeah, yeah, I've been a few times, but
Oh, you have. Okay.
I've been in a custody funk that doesn't really give me more than three
Oh,
days away, and
oh, I see. Yeah.
so I've
Oh,
been
yeah.
locked by virtue of not wanting to forfeit my father's rights.
Your paternity, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
been
And that's in St. George or somewhere.
no, it's actually in Idaho now. It started
Oh,
there.
you're in Idaho now? And
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
wow. What was that
Yeah, yeah.
movie
So I've
you're
been
on?
looking at like how do we create AI for,
Hmm.
resolving silly things like, misunderstandings on time and custody. And anyway, just it's
1,000 years ago, when I was still doing jokes on the radio, we had a bunch of fake books, and one of them was Parenting by Fax, and
oh, that's a good one.
which is pretty. It dates itself really well, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
right. You just yeah, when the heart's unwilling, there's a thousand excuses and it's
Before you parented by fax, you parented by telex.
wait, telex. I don't get that.
Hmm. You're not old enough to remember telex. Telex is um, what was telex? It was it was telemetry. It's a form of communication by uh, a kind of telemetry, kind of somewhere between Morse code and the phone system. I
Hmm.
think. I don't know. Sam, what was telex? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was something like especially a typewriter where you send the characters over the phone. That was in some ways kind of, it was almost more like digital than fax, which is basically a
Yeah,
set.
yeah.
It was
You had a
fresh and
telex machine. It looked like a typewriter. I remember that. I never
yeah,
used one, so I don't. I don't remember. But
like a typewriter with
uh,
a remote keyboard, right?
yeah, yeah. It's oh my God.
Well, I don't know why the phone calls haven't adopted some type of chat-like protocols so we can like, you call up customer support and they can actually send documents through the
One would hope. I mean, that's
interface,
probably
right?
That's
Like
not
not
off
Minitel.
the table. It's just not. You
That's a
know.
different thing. That's Minitel from France.
Oh
sure.
yeah, the Minitel, the original sort of internet. Yeah. I mean, when I first went over to France, like in the early-ish '90s, um, Minitel was still a thing. Every house had a Minitel machine.
You still sometimes see them on the side of the road over there.
like tube televisions here. Our builder in California refers to those older TVs as heavy TVs. Those are the heavy TVs because they had a vacuum inside. That's what made them so heavy. There's Ian. Okay, Ben's on here now. That's good. Hi, Ben. Um, Wait for more people to come on. We generally have a few dozen at some point. So look at the list of participants here. Almost two now.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, or as we call it here, Kwaai Day. I see Riza looks like a woman now. It says,
Thank
are you
you.
at
I
his
know.
computer? or just use
Uh,
his handle?
just because I wanted to make sure that the call today wasn't dependent on having him join.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll
And you're
change my
Maria,
name.
right? Yeah.
Myra. Yes.
Myra. Okay, I have to make
I just had
get it straight.
a video call with Reza from a wedding in Ireland, looking nice and sharp.
Oh, really?
Nice.
That's great. I forgot. Someone had Chicago in my head for years, but he said he was Ireland or Ireland, as they say over there. Okay, very good. Let's see. We're up to 28 people. So, Mara, at what point do we decide we have enough people to proceed?
I think it's more of a time thing, right? So once we get to, I don't know, it's already 2 past, maybe another minute, and we can start.
Okay.
And
Okay,
we
great.
generally start with Riza sharing just some updates for Kwaai. And then we move into our speaker, Ben Moskowitz, today.
Okay, so I have to text Drummond Reed the Zoom link so he can be on the call. Here we go. I'm hearing from people. Okay, so okay, and you're putting up. That's good. Thank you for being Riza there. And okay, I'll wait for Drummond to get in because I was selling him pretty hard on being at this.
Okay.
So let's see if he shows up. There are 2 chats so far. Oh, they're the AI assistants telling us they're assisting us. Otter and Otter. Okay, we have no takers as well. Okay, we're up to 29. Let me look at the participants.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Okay, Drummond's here. That's cool. Okay. All right, so I will, let's see. I will proceed. Let me collapse the size of a couple of things on my screen. So I'm the larger the screen you have, the more things you have to confuse yourself. So that's how those work. Okay, everybody. Well, welcome to Kwaai Day. I'm not Riza. I'm Doc, your chief intention officer, named after a book. And our guest speaker today is Ben Moskowitz of Consumer Reports. And I would hope all of you know what Consumer Reports is. If you don't, it's the largest and most important consumer organization on earth, and it's here in the U.S. It's about $250 million in revenue, and it's a nonprofit, and it is extraordinarily influential. It's one of the reasons fewer of us smoke, and we drive safer cars, and many other things like that. And Ben has led the efforts at Consumer Reports to modernize the way that we relate to companies in ways that we never have before and probably should have earlier in our evolution of the internet. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben, who will correct what I just said or explain more about what's going on in his secret lab.
Yep. And just because Reza likes to start it, it is weekly public meeting number 69. And welcome everyone, and welcome Ben. And thank you, Doc.
Well, thanks for having me. And I think I got about 20 minutes, but what I want to do is be as casual and colloquial as possible. So if folks have comments or questions or provocations as I'm speaking, just like throw them out. Doc did a good job of kind of teeing up Consumer Reports. So I'm just going to get right into what I think as an agent of Consumer Reports is likely to happen over the next couple of years with agentic AI. I think it's really important that we have the ability to choose AI agents that represent our interests. In the coming years, you're going to have so much choice, and you're going to have so much innovation in tools that help you make decisions, help you do transactions. More and more, you're going to be able to think about a need you have and then rely on a computer or some intelligence to help you get that need fulfilled. And so this notion of agentic AI is getting a lot of people quite excited about the future of the internet, but also just the way that we're going to connect and transact in the marketplace. when I think about the word agent, there's a couple things that are maybe baked into that word. So an agent, in one sense, is something that helps you express your intent. And that's kind of like what an assistant is. And when we think about Kwaai and the idea of personal AI, you want a tool or a companion that's going to assist you, right? You want something that's going to increase your agency. So the things you're trying to get done in the world are going to get easier for you to do because you have some help. Agency also sort of implies, in a way, a duty that an agent has to you, who are the principal. So people often talk about like a fiduciary duty. If I choose an accountant, that person has to make sure that what they're doing is in my interest. If I choose a doctor, the care they provide me based on my decision and not the hospital's needs. There's so many kinds of experts, professionals in society that have these duties, and an agent, an AI agent, should probably be really clear about where its duty lies. And so I know you guys are all thinking about personal AI, and a question that a lot of people are thinking about is, what is the topography of personal AI going to look like? Is there going to be like one AI to rule them all? Is it a winner take all game where I use Google's personal AI or I use Apple's personal AI, or maybe Chat GPT becomes my interface to a lot of the things I want to do. It becomes my agent. That's like a winner take all version of the future. I think it's much more likely that any one of us will have multiple agents or AIs. So, if I am a hobbyist, if I'm really good at computers, or if I care, I might provision something like Kwaai to be my primary agent or my primary assistant. And what's cool about that is you can envision that being both an open source kind of thing, where if I'm skilled enough, I can spin up a pod somewhere, or I can even install it on my local machine at some point. Or maybe there's like a co-op model where I can get my Kwaai service, from a co-op, which I think is what a lot of the focus is. But also there can be commercial offerings, right? So you might use Kwaai for certain kinds of things in your life, but you might have a really specialized medical agent that helps you with medical things, and you need a bit of specialization, and you're willing to pay because you get a different kind of help. You might have a different one for family management. Maybe there's like a household agent that helps you and the members of your family agree on who's going to do the dishes and how much money is left for groceries and things like that. So what I'm saying is, I don't think there's going to be like monolithic AI agents or AI assistants, and it's not going to be like Jarvis. That's my own personal opinion. I think we're going to have a number of things that we decide to use. And based on that feeling of how the market's going to develop, at Consumer Reports, we are working on some specific concepts. I'm just going to share my screen and tell you about some of the things that we have in motion. Right off the bat, I just want to plug an app that we've built, which you can download today, called Permission Slip. This is an authorized agent. It's not very AI in the way people experience it, but there's a lot of AI that makes it possible. And the basic idea is, if you want to have a little bit more control about how companies can use your data, you install this app, you authorize Consumer Reports to be your agent, and then you kind of tell us your preferences, either at a global level, like I want all data brokers to stop selling my data or I want to delete it, or even at like a company level, like I want Walgreens to delete my account, or in the future, I want to get a copy of my Amazon data. So this is a very specialized agent. It's all about helping you control the flow of your data. And we've learned a lot about how to make a service like this work in the market. And we are excited about this becoming a bit more AI and agentic in nature. Building on that, we started dreaming really big about how purpose-built agents, or maybe just a really great consumer agent, could help people research, buy, and troubleshoot better. So you want to buy a product, instead of going to Google and Amazon and opening up 30 tabs and doing the research, what if you just tell Consumer Reports, here's my criteria, here's what I want, And consumer reports can surface a lot of options for you with a lot of really high quality data from us, potentially also making sense of other sources of data from other product review sites, and to help you get to the product that you want that's right for you faster. That's how research and buying could get better. But what about troubleshooting? Now I've got a product, or I subscribe to a service and I have an issue. Um, I think I'm paying too much for my car insurance, or there's a weird charge on my phone bill. Wouldn't it be cool if you could tell your agent, go deal with that for me? I don't want to get on the phone. I don't want to waste my time. You go and do that for me, agent. And your consumer reports agent or your Kwaai agent just does the work for you, right? A lot of things need to get solved for that future to come true. And we're engaged in a lot of product R&D, standards work, and other things to try to make that more feasible in the market. But if we succeeded that, that's really quite meaningful for our power and our agency as consumers in the marketplace. Because with that kind of help, a lot of the friction and a lot of the kind of asymmetry and annoyance that comes in when you, the puny consumer, are trying to deal with these big companies, or when you, the busy consumer, have bigger fish to fry and just let things slide because it's too stressful or time consuming to get justice, right? It will be good if we have agents like this that work on our behalf. It'll make us more free. It'll make us more sovereign. And maybe even collectively, it'll make us more powerful relative to industry. So we're really excited about that. A couple weeks ago, we went out to VRM Day. It was our first time visiting IIW and the wonderful working group that Doc and Joyce pulled together twice a year. And we shared some of our early work. So I'm just going to show some stuff really quickly, and then I think we can back out into like a bigger discussion of what it might mean for Kwaai. The first thing is, what are the protocols that are going to enable these agents to transact with companies on our behalf? So we've done a little bit of thinking on how we approach companies and how we show them that investing in these kinds of interfaces is a good idea. So if you're a business, you already might provide a way to call, to email, to chat, and maybe some self-service. What would it look like to set up an interface for the consumer's agent to transact directly? And that's one of the areas that we're investing in. And the argument to companies is, if they don't agree with us on some standards or some norms for this, the agents are going to come anyway. But those agents are going to clog up those existing support channels. They're going to clog up the phone lines. They're going to fill up the inboxes. And they're going to do it in a way that's not only harder for the companies to manage, but will actually introduce a whole lot of new risks. If we don't figure out the security model for this, it could be a nightmare. If we don't figure out the privacy model for this, it could be a nightmare. So there's some protocol level work to be done on how will agents transact with businesses on a consumer's behalf. And we're excited to be working with a lot of different people to bring forth some proposals and to understand where some existing standards might do the job and where we might need to define some others to enable agentic AI and personal AI to really take off in the way that we hope it will. And the last thing I'll show is, what might that enable in the short term? So we built some little prototypes inside of Permission Slip. Just to be clear, this is not a statement of intent for any one product. We have a number of products where we're going to be exploring these concepts. But within Permission Slip, you have a lot of what Doc has called a vendor relationship management tool. We offer the user a database of companies, brands, providers. We serve as the agent. We've done a lot of work to position ourselves as that intermediary that helps you communicate and transact with a brand according to your preference. And we've built the operational power to do that. We're going to be layering a lot more AI into this process, which is for now, more of like a operational kind of approach. But just imagine that in the future, you show up to a service like this, and maybe you start chatting with us. You could be chatting by voice, you could be typing, but you just come in natural language and say, hey, I want to dispute a charge on my phone bill. And we, your agent, say, hey, good news, we can help you with that. But the first thing we need to do is to authenticate with your phone provider that we are who you say we are, and that we, your agent, are empowered to represent you. So some kind of authorization flow. Again, this is the protocol work that needs to be done. But we say this agent is now authenticated or logged in. You can think of like an OAuth kind of concept. And once the user has authenticated or authorized the agent, from now on, the agent can communicate with T-Mobile. From T-Mobile's perspective, talking to my agent is the same as talking to me. Just talk to my agent, right? And once that authentication is done, we can help handle that transaction for you. But maybe also T-Mobile can surface through their agent some transactions or some offers that they can help you with. And so there's now this possibility of direct agent to agent communication, and your AI assistant or your AI agent, or however you think of this kind of service, is able to handle things for you in the marketplace. And then, at some point in the future, hopefully you're getting a lot of value. You're seeing a lot of the work that the agent is doing for you, and a lot of the kind of pending transactions you have. You might never take the time to peer out on this, but there's a lot of observability in the system, right? Like you can talk to your agent. You can feel that you're getting a lot of value from not having to worry about things and knowing that this agent is loyal to you and working on your behalf. But if you ever wanted to kind of look under the hood, you should be able to see in great detail what the agent is doing. And we think that's an important design principle. And finally, if for whatever reason you want to revoke access, it's really important that we don't have agents that you forget about, and then one day you wake up and they've been compromised or they're doing things that you don't want. And so we have to think deeply about revocation of access. And these are just some of the things that are underneath the promise of really powerful AI assistants or AI agents. So I feel like I've covered a great deal, but this is just to give you a sense of what we're excited about. And if anyone in the Kwaai community is interested in protocols to enable agents to communicate and transact on consumers' behalf, we'd love to work with you. If anyone in Kwaai is thinking deeply about this duty of loyalty concept of how do we engineer and at a system level by design guarantee loyalty by design? We talk a lot about secure by design in cybersecurity. What does loyal by design look like in AI? We'd love to be working with you as well. So thank you for welcoming me, and I'm happy to stick around and chat if anyone has any thoughts or questions. Thank you.
Yes, but please do stick around. I've invited people to raise their hands if they have
Yes.
them. And Ira, okay, Iris first, then Bri. Do I have that right?
Correct.
So.
Hi, Ben, this is just so encouraging. As you can see, I put something in the chat there that I find it to be very relieving to hear that there is an entity that's at the fulcrum of what it's going to be like to actually change best practices or ensure for best practices. The question I have is, do you think, not unlike, say, the regulating bodies of the SEC, where there's a third-party entity called DTC that clears all transactions, do you see the world of consumption, which is just going to go haywire in the future, that there might be like a best practices type of third party to regulate consumption?
I don't know. I feel like it's a really good question, and it's hard to wrap your mind around it. I think there would be all kinds of regulation or oversight needed for different parts of this future. In general, I think a good start would be that there are system design guarantees that reduce a lot of the bad stuff that could happen. So, let's be clear about the security model for how an agent works. Let's be clear about the identity model. There's a lot of law that governs transactions handled by electronic agents that predates AI by a whole lot. And there are people in this community, including Daza Greenwood, who are thinking deeply about that. But as to new institutions or roles for existing institutions, yeah, I think it's a really great question. And I'm not sure that I've got a great idea about that just yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So who's next? I think Bri, then Zachary or Michael. So Bri, go for it, man.
Yeah, Ben, thanks so much for your work and just, helping us get to a place of informed consent, I think is what I see. And being permission-based and a duty to loyalty to the customer in line with the VRM vision. Are you going to be sticking around for the idea exchange the next hour, where we do a deep dive on
That's the hour following this hour. So
yeah,
I'll be able to stay until 2. But
Okay.
if there's things we want to take offline, I'm happy to chat by email or join a future call.
Is that 2 Pacific or where are you at?
Oh, sorry,
No,
I'm in
we're
East,
East Coast, Eastern.
so
He's Eastern,
11.
I'm Eastern too.
So not
Oh,
India
yeah.
exchange. Okay, well then, yeah, could you explain to me what you guys are thinking about on the RAG side? There's 2 major aspects to like, duty of loyalty, auditability, like actually determining whether they followed, my intent or whatever. And I think RAGs is a kind of the technical path for exploring that and making that expectable. So yeah, as far as kind of the protocols that you're talking about to empower consumers to hopefully, also
Yeah.
inspect what's
So
done.
so
What do you think
RAG
about RAG?
so RAG is like I would say it's a design pattern for how you can build applications that have knowledge that's not in the model, right? Um, Within CR, we've been building a tool that we call Ask CR, which I think is really relevant to where we're hoping to take those concepts in the future. The work I just showed you also depends on our progress in our own company of building great products that are useful. And so this is a RAG system. You can now come to CR and ask a question. And in theory, if CR institutionally has the knowledge, you'll get a good answer. So what's the best use SUV with third row seats, right? So what we're doing behind the scenes here is we're looking at all of our structured and unstructured data and saying what could be relevant to this query. And then there's a lot of post-processing to kind of figure out what to do with that information. So we're
So
orchestrating.
if I might just quickly deep dive a little, with that limited time, what are you guys looking at, mostly vector store, or how are you, like, what's the data orientation, or you're looking at graph RAG,
Yeah.
for example?
In our own product for now, it's vector, but graph RAG is interesting in the future. I think linking this to the agentic discussion, it's one thing if you have your own domain of data, right? So like I now can, as a CR member, I can get to the data faster. A system like this should be able to do RAG on a whole set of trusted sources in a network. So imagine in the future that like this system can go to Wirecutter, CNET, Good Housekeeping, and the system can understand how to help you make sense of different sources of information. So that's a really advanced form of RAG. It's like network RAG, right? And I think one of the interesting questions here is how might you compensate people who are powering the intelligence in a system like this? And if you look at Google or Perplexity right now, they're not. So is there an opportunity to think about RAG as a system of value exchange and not just a way to build a chatbot? Like that's some of what I think is possibly interesting in the future.
Cool. Well, great. I'll drop a link to just an ArcView article about some stuff that might be helpful, and then we can perhaps connect later. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. And I guess in the Kwaai context, like your domain of knowledge as a user, you want to enable RAG on that domain. How do you think about the user's domain of knowledge versus the domains of knowledge that the agent might want to tap into to advise the user? So I think there's like some really interesting philosophical work, but also practical engineering to make the promises of these things come to life. Like in practice, does every agent become a little bit like a search engine? Well, how does that work without an index? Right? Like, how does my agent know what information is out there? Those are some really big.
Yeah, and cosine similarity, is that really auditable and inspectable for the average consumer on a vector side?
Well, and they should never have to think about those kinds of things, but the architects of these systems should be trusted to make the right choices for them, I think.
Okay, I think I'm not seeing it on here, but I think there Michael was next, Zachary, and also Steve Vitka says he can't raise his hand. His hands have been cut off, so he goes in the queue after Michael and Zachary.
Zach, you can go first.
Okay, Zach.
Ben, thank you so much. That was amazing. Just real high level, no specific questions about your presentation. I can tell you that a lot of members in Kwaai are having conversations specifically around what you've presented. We all have different ideas, but they're all leading to the same pathway, right? Consumer agency, human agency, especially in the age of AI. I would love to share some things with you personally, not only about Kwaai and the startup, but I would love to operationalize this particular partnership because I think that this is one of the most important mandates that we can look at for the future. So if you can, I don't know if you want to post your email or if there's some other method of communication, but I would love to take the ball on really shaping a collaboration and a communication flow between the community and Consumer Reports. I think that's incredibly important.
Amen. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I'll just
Okay.
pop the so this inbox is ideal because I've got a team who's helping juggle many of the things that we are showing you today. And I think what, if I could just be open about a challenge that I think we're facing is like, I come from Mozilla, right? Like I'm an open source, open web, open standards guy. I believe in doing things by wiki and, in the open. And that's really what I'm trying to operationalize at Consumer Reports. And, we are a nonprofit trying to keep the lights on. And so part of what I need to figure out is, working with like Kwaai as a community, but also I'm sure many people are familiar with like the GliaNet Alliance. There are so many fora where this good thinking is happening, and which networks of people are recognizable to the rest of the network as kind of driving on parts of what needs to happen. I can say that for Consumer Reports, we really want to drive the protocol discussion in a way that gets industry on board. And that's where we think we have some special sauce. We do have the power, fortunately, to get the attention of brands that need to care about what consumers think, right? Like that's our brand power. So where I'm really trying to focus us for the community is how do we get adoption to enable this to actually take off in the market? And then I think the second thing is how can we be an exemplar of some of the personal AI or duty of loyalty concepts in our own product, recognizing that what we're building and offering is going to be like a paid service, right? Because that's our model. But are there things that we're doing that can be open sourced and kind of gifted back to the commons? So that's just to share some of the early thinking as we're trying to navigate those things.
I think we're completely aligned, and I think there's some very interesting things that we can bring to the table in terms of knowledge and resource. So I'm very excited to collaborate further. Thank you.
Great to meet you, Zach. Awesome.
Okay, so Sam's gonna hand us up too. So, but where'd he go?
I think Michael was.
Michael was next, but oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
you, Michael,
Sorry,
then
my
Steve,
hand keeps falling
and
down.
then Sam. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Ben, thanks so much. I met you years ago at a MozFest virtually, so it's good to see you virtually again. And I'm really excited. I was interested, actually, you started to bring up some stuff about other orgs you're seeing, and I mentioned this in the chat. I was just bouncing out of Project Liberty's summit on the future of the internet that's going on right now, and I wondered about, I mean, Project Liberty, there are good things and bad things, it seems to me, about what they're doing. And I wondered if you'd had any interaction with them or if there are other entities of similar mind that you see that seem like people you'd like to bring together
Yeah,
or not.
they have, I think, going back to 2022 or 2021 when they were unfinished, done a great job of convening a lot of people to think deeply about where things could go. And I don't know that anyone's doing as good a job convening at a large scale. They're very focused on social media as like the point of intervention. And so we haven't really been as deeply involved because we're more focused on e-commerce and customer relationships. And social media is like not exactly where we play. But I think that they've done a good job of really imagining the protocols that would make social media be different. And a lot of the like stated objective over there is helping people own their data. The idea of like owning your data is like near and dear to us, but
Yeah.
I think we tend to look at it more in a rights-based way. So the most important thing is, do you have the rights to control what happens to your data? And then there will be a whole number of technical approaches to operationalize that, if that makes sense. So, yeah, just there's a few thoughts on like how the work we're doing might relate to the Project Liberty community.
I mean, the thing I was curious about, and I don't know if they're pushing right now this frequency protocol that allows some interop, and they're getting more into talking about how commerce and ways that we've been talking about at Kwaai of using the data that is you to transact across platforms with your same identity, but sharing limited amounts of information with merchants and such, even using the Doc's favored term of the intention economy in their presentations. So yeah, it seems like they're pushing toward.
Oh, they're actually talking that up. I haven't paid attention. That's interesting.
Well, what I would say is like whether it's frequency or over in a very different area like Inrupt and Solid, there's now a lot of different proposals that are kind of gaining different kinds of steam, but the challenge that they all have is adoption. And it's almost like we're building an alternative, but we don't have an idea of how to get from where we are today to pivot to where we want to go. It's almost like building in parallel. And my view is that the reality of the market is, trillions of dollars of data and commerce happening on today's rails. You can't build new rails. You need to evolve the rails that exist. And this is like more of a metaphor, if you follow. That's really influenced our thinking in the sense that if we have a new protocol or a new design pattern or a new norm, frankly, like a norm is a way to think about it, we have to figure out how to get the big centers of gravity to adopt those things. So like, how did OAuth take off? How do we do something like that? Where there's like a recognized set of challenges and opportunities, and it's not that we're trying to force a whole new alternative paradigm on Fortune 500 companies that don't give a damn,
Yeah.
So I think what we're trying to do is be pragmatic about how we take the same values, the same ideas. And I joke sometimes with Doc and others about this idea of a Trojan horse, right? But how do we deliver those things incrementally to a marketplace so that if we keep at it in 3 or 4 years, we're where we want to be, And that's just philosophically how we think about some of these things.
Yeah. I know Sam has some stuff to ask, but just to follow up, so that you don't see, I mean, I guess for those of us who are building, including Kwaai or including the Collaborative Technology Alliance, which I'm involved in with different platforms, we're all looking for which set of rails to get on, and Consumer Reports I think is uniquely positioned to be in a way an arbiter. And so like the weight of what you see coming that you think is promising, whether it's, Activity Pub or Blue Sky or DSMP, et cetera, it matters to the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like what I understand and perceive about Kwaai is like the main thing is the ability to have an assistant that will help you organize and make sense of different kinds of information, right? Is that a fair thing to say about like the main design goal of Kwaai? This is from Michael, but also
Maybe this is a good moment for Sam to speak up. Because
Sam might just jump ahead of
I
Steve for a
describe
second.
iOS as the kind of what happens if we don't do it, right? You end up with all of your data. I've got photos in Apple, email in Gmail, documents in Microsoft, and I don't plan to move any of it, right? There's this concept like Dave McCrory talks about data gravity, whereas what we can do with iOS is we can pull in the data in batch and stream and then prepare it for consumption by AI, whether locally or a service like OpenAI. So it kind of solves that problem. Otherwise, you've got to pick a pocket. You go like, when Apple comes out with the new Siri next year, which is based on LLMs, right? You'll have to put everything into Apple or everything to Google or everything into Microsoft, which is good for them, but not very good for us.
Right. The data gravity thing is really serious, right? Like iOS could be amazing, but the reality is people with iPhones are probably not going to have an ergonomic way to opt into PiOS. And like
Yeah.
those are like the kind of just hard rocks. Like those things are just things that are there, and they're market, and so often what I try to do as a techno utopian, which I think we all are, is, how do we deliver the value right away in a way that's not contingent on getting some part of the market to dramatically change? And like, whether that means figuring out how to offer an app. I know that's always like, that's kind of cheapens the goal of a project like PiOS, or whether it's figuring out the cloud model where you can easily access and get value out of it. And what's the MVP, right? Like, what are the smallest number of features that provide user value right away? And then those give you your own, I guess, gravity to chart a longer term paradigm shift if you can continue to sustain the momentum. I know I'm telling you things that you know and already think about, but I'm also working through it with you all as I'm new to the Kwaai and kind of PiOS discussion.
Yeah, well, you can certainly run it locally, but we're building it with, I'm an ex-Google SRE, so I'm thinking about scalability and security and multi-tenancy and that kind of stuff as well. So you would put it, rather than kind of bringing the data to the apps, you bring the apps to the data. And in that case, it's the cloud, right? So you run it in the cloud. But one of my question really relates to a discussion that I had. I'm just back from a roadshow where I did IIW, TechCrunch Disrupt, Web Summit Lisbon. So I saw like Bruce and Tim Berners-Lee talking about the data wallets and so on. But I got to spend some time with Ian Henderson, who's obviously been working with Doc for a long time, and talked about like shopping models and how we can train these things and kind of basically eliminate the UI layer of the web.
Right.
It's bad news for Mozilla and Firefox and stuff, but have kind of a sitemaps.xml which describes products. But then you have the cold start problem of a two-sided marketplace. You need supply and demand, and that's where AI can actually help us by going and, for example, interpreting Tesla.com, so you can advise somebody on like which model to get when they've got kids and dogs or not, and so on.
Well, so like just to pick up on this concept of eliminating the UI, that's a really good way of thinking about it, because you should be able to interact with your AI through any number of regular contact channels. I should be able to call my AI, message my AI. The AI can live anywhere. And in fact, it will live, quote unquote, on the cloud. But the interaction model is going to have to be something that can't be gatekept, right? And the IO to it needs to be thought through as a whole set of IO to something that, it's not a replacement for your phone, or it's not a replacement for your Google account. Like, we're not trying to replace those things. They're here, they're staying, right? But like, if I'm thinking about the customer service agent concept that I showed, right? I'm not designing it to be your data wallet, but in order to power the thing, some data wallet model needs to be part of the design. So almost incidentally, it has these properties, right? And like, what I really think is like the opportunity for anyone innovating in this space commercially or in the public interest is what you said, Sam. It's like, think about the thing that can't be gatekept, right? And just forget about the UI for a second, because the UI is a fixed constraint that's controlled by corporate gatekeepers. How do you talk to it? What's the IO from it? And it's just the things that enable you to IO to humans, in a way, right? It's all the channels that have been established. And so, and I think you follow my very abstract meaning.
Yeah. Well, we have a concept of channels in there, actually. We've changed it down to resources, but the idea was you would have like multi-channel, kind of omni-channel. You could text it, talk to it, and even have agents then that would go and say, hey, you've got a kid on the way, maybe you need to get rid of the Model 3 and get a Model Y, because you kind of have a kid and a dog in the back or whatever, right? And then it's like, do you have a third row of seats, and all those kind of details. Even proactively.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting.
Okay, so Steve Vitka had his virtual hand up earlier.
Yeah, wow. Okay, well, there's a lot more to react to now. So, well, let me just say some things that stuck out. I pretty much agree with everything everybody else said. Zach, I really love you volunteering to keep the flow open between us, and that means you're going to have to read all my white papers. And more specifically, I have actually just finished an architecture for distributed search without a common index. And so you can take a look at that. It's over in the Kwaai channel on Slack. And let's see what else. I really like the whole idea of design to be loyal. That was a really great phrase. And by using RAG with a lot of calls to a local model over and over again, including potentially, anyway, there's variations, but and then scripting in between, you can really get, I think, agents that will really, really well conform to a set of behavioral guidelines that can be put in place by an arbitrary group of users. You know, for example, you know, a bunch of architects all want to share an AI model as their base model. They can all sort of train it together and come up with the behavioral guidelines that they train into it and so on and so forth, which then can also be checked with RAGs on top of being trained into it. So anyway, I love the idea of becoming involved in the larger conversations because I live in my own world. There's like a sci-fi world 5 years in the future. So it's great to see other people like through the time stream.
I'd
all
love
right.
to learn the distributed search architecture. That sounds really important.
Yeah, you know, I think that's why, yeah. So just look in the Kwaai channel, or I can send you the links anywhere, obviously. So just are you going to be on our Slack? I'm ChatGPT Steve on that.
I'm not there yet, but I'll see if I can get in later
Okay.
then.
I can add you, Ben. So I think we have a couple more questions quickly. Debbie, Joyce.
Oh, those are hands I'm not seeing. So Debbie and Joyce
Yeah,
are on.
they're not able to raise their hands.
Okay, so Debbie first and then Joyce.
No, I didn't have a question. I just had a comment that I'm interested in exploring the concept of design by loyalty with the team. I think if anybody knows me around here, that's something that I'm interested in. I think that really rings true. Trust is key. And anybody who basically runs a business, creates products, understands, and Consumer Report is in the business of helping people understand trust. They're looking for answers. They're looking to buy that one car, that one vacuum cleaner, and uncertainty is the mother of distrust. So it's the key, right? And that's, for me, it's all about that.
I want to interject here that the issue of loyalty. So we're talking about the loyalty of the fiduciary loyalty of the AI to the individual. Is that correct? Not the loyalty programs that are sitting out there. They're called
No,
loyalty.
I'm not saying the loyalty program. I'm talking about the loyalty of the.
I just want to be clear on that. And actually, that goes to a question Ben doesn't have to answer now, but I'd like to hear more about at some point, which is the degrees of welcome and what form they take on the corporate side to the kind of work you're doing, and the willingness to partner or be open to far more agentic customers or far more agentic actions coming from the customer side, because we want that. That's the horse, right? You know, and that we're rolling in there, and I have to know that the entities in the horse are welcome too. But anyway, I think Joyce also had the hand I can't see up if she's on here.
Yeah.
I can't see all.
Yeah.
I have a question slash comment. So this week, some of you were on the call. We had Shweta Rao presenting on Beckon in our Beyond the Web series at IU here. And she did a really good job. It'll be posted online in the next couple of days of it's a peer-to-peer e-commerce, you know, no platform in between. It's a protocol. But she pointed out something that I thought was just really outstanding, and it relates to something Ben said earlier in this call. Like, Consumer Reports spin on the problem because we know this is like a universal problem of, you know, that we don't have tools on our side. But so we have problem after problem that needs to be solved. But with Consumer Reports, it's sort of like it comes from the e-commerce, from the transaction side. Well, where Beckon is all about the transaction. And then once you realize that transaction itself is kind of the center of this this problem, it can relate to anything, whether it's health or calling a taxi or whatever, and nobody pays attention to that. They're paying so much attention, like you said, with the Project Liberty thing about social media and how people are going to talk to each other and all that. But what's actually key to people's lives is the transaction. And if you can, that kind of, there's a little Trojan horse thing in there. If you go, that's why the payments people always believed that they owned identity. The payments people forever have thought that they owned identity. Well, the reason they think about it is because it's important for them to know who to pay and who to get money from. So if we can kind of center transaction in our thinking, and then how to get this trust piece, Debbie, that you brought up, like with, already trusted agents, actors in the world, whether it's AARP or Consumer Reports or NPR or whatever, those people, those entities take the trust that's there. That's a way to scale this, so people are not afraid to transact. So I think if we take this the commerce way and try not to make everything social, social will come, but you don't if you don't start with social, you start with transaction, you start with commercial, and you start with what people need to do, buy stuff every day and own stuff and sell stuff and recommend stuff to their friends. That to me, it's kind of like a golden territory that nobody's really been paying attention to.
So I should add that Beacon, Sujith Nair, who is running Beacon for their foundation, it's open source, is nonprofit in India, has scaled enormously in India, and ONDC, which is the organization around that for the open network.
Open networks. Digital commerce, open networks for digital commerce.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a happening thing in India, and there's open stuff we can use. And
600 plus cities are using it. Over 1 million sellers, individual, like a cart selling you juice, is using a protocol to make an easy transaction. So, I mean, there's lessons that are there for, I think will really be appropriate for us.
So Ian, whose name was dropped by Sam earlier, has his hand raised.
Yeah,
and he's got a protocol. He has a protocol too.
Oh yeah, I've got 2 or 3 of the things. Just maybe a bit of a tangent, Ben, but I'm just wondering if you folks are talking to your peers in UK and EU. And the reason I ask that, I mean, there's certain things that are much more easy to do over here because of competition law and data portability. So I'm just wondering if you are talking to them, whether you're looking outside of the US market.
At CR, we're unfortunately or fortunately just very focused on North America, but we're part of the Consumers International Consortium, which we started, and I'm hoping to, as we get more advanced, bring this to the other member organizations. There's at least one Consumer Reports in every country in the world, and maybe...
I think in the UK, Consumer Association would be all over this kind of thing.
Yeah, and Choice, although they're a little bit different. So if you have specific ideas that you think can be activated now, maybe we can bring them to Consumers International. But in my head, the plan had been have some concrete things to show and then try to internationalize it.
One thing I think missing
certainly the big thing
is
sorry, Sam.
a product database. Sorry. And I've been driving this discussion about open source AI requiring the data, and product database here in this case would be very useful, even if it didn't have like the deep links into the vendors and the affiliate codes and the prices and all the rest of it. I think you kind of need that to be able to make these recommendations.
Yeah, well, and I guess it's the DSA that mandates that some of that data is now public, if I understand correctly. The issue, and we thought about it, is that if we're serving US consumers, the data is about products that they may not have available. So that's why we sort of considered it and didn't pursue it at this time. But if we build a template for a thing that's highly relevant and can knock on the door of UK Consumer Association, whoever, what I've found is these organizations are so challenged in terms of their resourcing. They don't have a Sam or an Ian on staff who can figure this stuff out. So if we can come to them with something that's a bit more shovel ready, it's likely to be So yeah,
I think we can do the one point I was going to make that makes it a lot easier is because of European competition law, and the UK has effectively mirrored that. There's massive scale data portability now mandatory for the big gatekeepers. So Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and all those folks basically now have about 3 months or so to switch on continuous real-time feeds to anyone that wants it. So essentially, it helps with the adoption problem. You still have the fire hose problem, but that's a different problem.
I could be wrong, but I do think there are people inside Mozilla who are looking at this.
Yeah, I would assume so.
So maybe
Anyways,
they could-
I'll drop you a note on that whole context.
And this is a fascinating conversation, but you know, thank you, Ben. I just feel like, Doc, we're coming to the end of the hour, and we've taken up.
We still have 7 minutes left. So
okay,
and Liam Broza has his hand up, and he's always interesting.
okay.
So, take it away, Liam. If you're probably on mute somewhere. You there, Liam? The hand is up.
I'm here. I just wanted to say very quickly, I just came from like a different standards group on the opposite side of the moon, kind of doing metaverse standards. And it's very hard. There's a bunch of stuff integrating with that. And the thing that was really helpful was maybe just creating some like benchmarks or tests or sandbox ways to have this conversation. Because I loved exactly what you just prototyped out. And I'm like, as somebody who wants to just rapidly test and implement and jump in just to the way I heard other people talk, that's maybe an action item, is thinking on that. I just wanted to get your thoughts, Ben, because it seems like you guys have data, have use cases, things like that.
Yeah, on the agentic representation stuff, we're hoping to produce some prototypes over the next few months. Liam, if you have like passion areas, I can try to see what could make sense. Frankly, I'm behind on making the opportunities to partner on those prototypes legible to communities like this. So it's on me, I think, to think. But if you have an initial proposal, we can take it offline and.
You know, I hear what Joyce has said, and I heard other people's examples. Like buying a car seems like a really, really good one, or something like that. Like I'm shopping for a car. Like I'm building my own little AI for myself and teaching it to help me shop for a car or something like that. You know, or it's, I don't know, something. That's just an idea. But like pick one thing. You know, I don't know. Just it seems really cool work, Ben. It's so.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Riza has just appeared, and it has a look like he has something to say from Ireland. I don't know. He's just showing off how he looks, maybe. I don't know. Trying to find the mute button. We can't hear you, Riza.
There we go.
He's on his phone. Oh, there we
Hello,
go.
everyone.
There we go.
Yeah, calling from a wedding in Ireland. Stepped away after the speeches have been made, and I'm sure my first course has been set up. But Ben, I'm really excited that you are on this call. First of all, look, we'd like to formally invite you to speak at our summit in March 6th through 9. It's actually March 6th would be the day of the symposium. So we'll send you a formal invitation for that. But look, let's talk about how we can formalize a relationship between Consumer Reports and Kwaai, and actually identify projects that we can take on together. And so yeah, I'm thrilled that you're on. We just had a fantastic conversation with Liam before I went out on my trip, and I think we've got some momentum going here. And look, the rest of the industry, the rest of the lemmings are heading towards the red ocean of AI directed at enterprises, AI that is SaaS and B2B AI. And no one is looking, or very few people are looking forward to personal AI. And I think as a nonprofit, we can afford to play the long game, whereas the myopic view of the current investment community are looking at playing the short game of looking at near-term profits. It's a red ocean they're rushing to. And so let's double down on the I guess you opened the kimono at Project VRM and IIW. Let's double down on that and let's create the momentum and move forward. Thanks. Look, I'm speechifying now, like I'm at a wedding.
Yeah, you have that look. You have that look.
Okay.
Are you on a roof or something, or you're in a?
Look, this is a picture, a Christmas postcard that I've landed in the far end of Ireland, and they're all gathered inside there for a wedding. So I'm going to head back. But thank you so much for being on the call.
Don't get married by mistake. You look like you're.
Be careful with those Irish weddings, are they trouble?
Okay.
You look so much like the groom.
It's an incredible commitment to the Kwaai cause, really, to step at the wedding.
Yeah, that is
Bravo,
quite commitment.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Keep well.
Thank you, Reza. Good seeing you.
Bye.
I wonder, Ben, if the kimono you're wearing is mistakenly taken for Superman's cape. I think he can do everything.
Much better word choice. Much better word choice. Thank you, Doc.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes left before we have a different call. So this is great. I'm not sure what we have on all our parts, our marching orders, as much as like connections to make and conversations to have. So we're all energized and all going places, and just really appreciate all the effort and work and commitment you're putting into this, Ben, and your team especially, which I'm glad we got to meet somehow out in Palo Alto a couple of weeks ago. That was fabulous, and we know you're on the case. So any last words, and then we'll pull out?
No, I just want to say thanks again for welcoming me and hearing out what we're working on. And I do see that the AI assistant taking notes here, Otter, has helpfully noted some of the actions we're going to take. So this is like a preview of when Kwaai is fully operational. We'll each have our own thing that will bug us individually on things that need to be done. But thank you guys, really appreciate it. And,
thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Just a quick thing before everyone leaves. I just wanted to see if Debbie and Mark wanted to talk about the elections that are coming up, the officer elections. We haven't had too many applicants quite yet, but Debbie and Mark, did you guys have any words?
I don't want to step on Debbie's toes. Thank you, Mark, for the invitation. Mark Vega here. Good to see you all. What a robust conversation today. We need people to participate even more. Put a step forward, step in, and dig in. And one of the best ways to do that is become an officer of this organization. We are moving, we are growing. Risa's kind of nurtured it for this point. And if you even just look at the bios, look at the people who are present, the 33 people at one point today and now 23 at this moment. Everybody has an opportunity to really make a stance and a position and embrace working with this robust community. We need officers, and the officers, candidates need to be identified before the 29th. And so we still have a week to go. Debbie, would you like to step in and say a thing or two to encourage even those among this 23 members in this group to do that? To try to weigh in, understand what that means, and participate?
Debbie?
She may have gone to the other
okay
call.
We do have another meeting.
Right, so just quickly before everyone drops off, I did put in the meeting invite for the idea exchange. Please go click on the Zoom link and join that call.
It's a Zoom this time. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, okay. So we do have the election channel open, officer election channel. I'm seeing some of the people post in it. Please go put your letter of intent and check out the Canvas. The Canvas has all the details. We'll also send out an email today just as a reminder for everyone. So thank you all. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone who participated. Yeah. Have a wonderful and happy Kwaai Day.
Thank you all.
Okay.
See you soon.
Happy everything, guys. Okay.
Bye.
See you in the next thing.